In previous episodes, to build our crazy project to cross a 21st Volga with a Bugatti Chiron, a design was created. Here is such a project, 2 options. Thanks for that to Alan Cookler. Afterwards, we bought a wrecked Volga body, and as the platform on which it should drive, a Ford probe was chosen. So, in the last episode, we placed a fiberglass shell onto the donor body from the Ford. And of course, we immediately encountered a bunch of new tasks and problems which we will be solving in this episode.
After we installed the Bugatti shell, we faced the problem that we don't have enough wheelbase clearance. Even though we already installed an 8 cm spacer, ordered from the guys, it's still not enough for us. The total offset we need for the wheelbase is 16 centimeters. How do we make a 16 centimeter spacer? That's just crazy. And it's absolutely the wrong technological solution. Therefore, we are making a decision of the following plan. To address the situation, there are 2 options. Either we widen the rear beam, which is very technically challenging. And the second option,
we decided to move the hub itself. Here are the supports. To make a test version of the spacer from wood to see all the nuances and subtleties with which we...
Yes, many will say that a wooden spacer is absurd. It's hard to disagree with you. And if we don't take into account one detail, namely what do we have at hand? Do we have a fully equipped carpentry workshop? As a result, we took a couple of oak scraps, a few milling cutters, and in half an hour came up with these halves, which cost us nothing at all. As a result, we glued 2 6 cm halves together to make one spacer, which should extend the hub by 10 centimeters, with 2 centimeters being taken up by the mounting area.
This is how our prototype for widening the wheelbase looks. We realize that it completely satisfies us, and we will continue to move forward.
And as you can see, this approach gave us the desired result. The wheel is extended and looks great in the arch, as they say, right in its place. And further, you can see exactly the same spacer but made of metal, which is quite expensive, and you can see for yourself. We are not yet capable of manufacturing such parts. That's why we first made a wooden prototype and only then went to the store and to the turner. In general, what was left off camera was how we inserted the hub into the spacer, sprayed a bit of paint of an indeterminate color, then marked the points for drilling and started drilling hole after hole. The next step is to cut the thread. Flag, tap, pass after pass, and everything is ready. Now we can try on our spacers. In the end, this is a relatively correct solution. The wheel is securely extended to the necessary distance. The load on the bearing is minimal compared to the previous spacer, which was mounted on the other side of the hub. And the appearance will be nicer, as the brakes will be closer to the disc, which looks more like the factory setup. But the only downside is the additional load on the suspension, as such a spacer weighs quite a bit. And here is the final visual of such a setup. However, we didn't completely abandon the classic spacer because the bolt patterns of the hub and the disc are different. And this is exactly the issue that this spacer solves. We ordered them from here and it's not our first time. We can confidently recommend them. I'll leave the link in the description. As you can see, everything worked perfectly. The wheel is in the right place, securely fastened and spins. By the way, a huge thanks for the discs. Thanks to our subscriber Alexei from Moscow. At the end of this quest, we put on the Bugatti shell and, oh miracle, you can dance with joy.
We need to paint the discs silver, they really get lost. Black, you know? Yes, black diminishes the size. You can't see it, you know, you always want the discs to be big, bright, light colored.
In the end, we quickly spray painted the discs. And this is really important because at the moment we are fitting the main body parts and visually assessing the proportions. And to objectively evaluate the overall look of the wheels, we need to highlight them, which is what we did.
And so, in the future, we will be manufacturing. For this, we need to move the windshield pillars and set them at the angle we need. This is what we will focus on now.
This is what they worked on for the next week. And to jump ahead, I'll say that it was all in vain. In the end, everything had to be redone. But they don't know this yet, so let's not distract them. and we return to the 3D model of the Bugatti to work on the rear part, the bumper, the tail light and the decorative elements. For this, we break down the model into parts and based on the dimensions and our processing capabilities, we cut the bumper into such layers so that later we can cut it out of foam board, make a mold and roll it out of fiberglass. But let's take it step by step. After we have properly sliced this sandwich, we head to the CNC and start the machine. As you can see, all these parts are made from foam board. Firstly, it can be purchased at any hardware store as well as on the manufacturer's website. Secondly, it comes in different strengths and you can always choose the right option for a specific project. Of course, initially foam board is not intended for these purposes as it is mainly used in construction. In the end, this work took several days and 6 sheets, 10 cm insulation. After CNC machining, the part looks like a large construction set that needs to be taken out of its slots, only then assembled. It's essentially Lego for adults. The next step is to assemble the puzzle. It's simple here, a good screwdriver, longer screws, and glue. Well, from there it's all clear, without unnecessary words. After the base is assembled, we wait for the glue to dry so it can be sanded. In the meantime, we work on other elements that require more detailed processing and precision. Originally, the Bugatti has this cool taillight. That's what we need to replicate. First, we decided to make it out of wood so that later we can create a mold and cast it in epoxy. And here it's not so simple either. This design has rather thin lines and details, so it was decided to use pear wood for the front side. Yes, it's not easy to find and it's not a cheap material if it's of the right quality. But, as I mentioned earlier, woodworking is originally our specialty and we always have the necessary material in stock. In the end, we decided not to make the entire lantern as a single piece because the cost of a mistake would be high and Valera is unlikely to want this item in his collection. So, we cut the model into pieces and use a bas-relief cutter to carve the construction, following the same principle as the bumper made from foam board, but now using pear wood with deeper detailing. Pear wood is just perfect for these purposes because it is a dense, stable material and it doesn't have large fibers. As a result, it doesn't crack or chip, as you can see on the screen. All that's left is to prime it and refine it a little with sandpaper. As I mentioned, all the front-facing parts are made from pear wood, but the bottom layer, which is only needed to give the necessary volume, we decided to cut out of maple and thus save valuable pear since we still have many projects ahead. As a result, after a day's work, we have this pile of blanks, which also need to be removed from the molds and glued into 3 main elements. That is 2 lanterns and a thin red stripe, which will combine everything into one beautiful element. This is done using a jigsaw, in this case a cordless jigsaw. In general, cordless tools are very convenient, especially when everything operates on a single system. In our case, it's an 18-volt system from Bosch. I think the blue Bosch needs no introduction, and our choice settled precisely on this line. In the end, the construction looks like this. All that's left is to glue all the parts together and prime the lanterns. Meanwhile, work on the stands did not come to a halt. After 2 Valera hours and 1 Andre day of measurements, which is essentially the same thing, it became clear that fitting the donor's windshield pillars to the Bugatti body would definitely not work. Therefore, we cut off all the excess and unseam the pillars. This is a very important safety element, and they are made with a large margin of strength. The pillars consist of many structural elements inside. All of this is connected with spot welding. That's why sometimes we use the grinder and other times the drill. After the top part is removed, the pillar looks like this. And according to the plan, we need to bend them slightly to align the roof with the pillars. Then we weld the same kind of sandwich again, but with the modified shape. You often write in the comments that we do not adhere to safety standards, and that we use the grinder without a protective cover. So, just for you, now we work only with them.
I like the guy in the orange gloves, he explains in an accessible language. I like the guy in the orange gloves, he explains in an accessible language. We expanded the stands so that later we can correctly position the grant relative to our pincher. Why did we expand them in this way? So that in the future, we can assemble it all together again. If we had just cut everything with one seam, with one careful cut, we wouldn't have been able to reassemble it properly because we wouldn't be able to weld all these layers meticulously. That's why we separated each layer from each other with some emphasis highlighted. And now we are precisely positioning our stands relative to the roof, and later we will carefully reassemble the stand.
Can't it fit? Yes, go ahead. So we have 10 centimeters when lifted. What do you think about the hood?
Well, you see in the comments. The guys wrote there that it's kind of too bright, Governor. What?
Go ahead, boss.
No, well, how does it look silly? What kind of grenade do you have? Well, you can gain 5 centimeters. Well, it looks silly from the front. It looks round and then it turns into a flat pancake. Well, not exactly.
Valera, turn it. Come on, we'll figure it out. What do you think about the pillar? We placed the same length on the roof, but the pillar Yes. If we had cut off just a little too much. You can look at the auto-dependent noise and then check your measurements there.
Can you sit there now?
Institute stands on ground.
Stand ground.
That's it. There you go. There it is. Yes. I won't. Look, it's really good like this. We're welding the frame on the Kashka now.
Well, right now it's clear that the position of the roof relative to the ground level is what we need. But the height inside the cabin, under the roof, is becoming critical. The car is starting to lose its usability. In general, we will think and decide. We will bring the issue up for general discussion.
Yes, to the operator, I'm not going to listen.
I'm not going to listen to the operator, so we won't talk at all. It became clear that these struts are not from our kit at all. So, the guys were messing with this old Provolskia strut for about a week, right? They were messing with it for about a week. So this is what we ended up with. We tried to bend it, deform it in various ways, but still, if you use this profile and such a formula, no matter how you twist it, we end up with this angle here. How many degrees is this?
Well, this many.
This many degrees. That's what we get here. And it looks kind of cool, but it doesn't fit with the concept at all. Because in the concept, it's supposed to be smooth and even, but here there will definitely be a step, an unattractive angle. Then it seems like an option, but if we left it like this, it would indeed definitely rule out the possibility of making the main element in Bugatti, such an arc that goes from this pillar to the rear wing. And this is already a serious deviation from the concept, so we decided to make a pillar. We took a simple plastic profile as an arc, looked at how it would appear and what we needed to change. So we roughly estimated it like this and realized what angle we needed to achieve this smooth, beautiful shape, which is such an integral feature. Bugatti. So we estimated with plastic, and the guys just had to make something out of metal. It's a 5-minute job. While the guys are working on the new pillars, I'm refining the foam form of the rear bumper. Simultaneously, work is progressing on building our van from the future.
By the way, the next episode will be about it.
These projects are done for fun, and it's only possible thanks to your support. You always do a great job helping to promote the videos. Thank you very much. I remind you that the best way to help promote the video is to share it anywhere. A long comment, a like, and a subscription are also very important. Thank you. The axe will be with you.